So one thing we hear at Bolt Digital all the time when we're talking to brands is, oh, my sector is so competitive. Now, I've actually asked this question without 100% being certain of the answer, because I think they're all quite competitive. But what sector, going back to the Slido quiz before we start, if you could choose a sector that you would think would be the most competitive sector to go into, what do you think it would be? Let's just let these guys answer the Slido question. Does it just work? Whether that's, if you're going to choose a category of product to sell in, which do you think would be the most competitive sector that there is? And then we will come on and give some views about, do the answers just miraculously appear? How does this thing work? Oh, what, press the button? I've lost a minute. Here we are. Oh, look at that. Lots of people said beauty, clothing, wellness, mattresses. Interesting. Mattresses is ridiculously competitive, actually. Subscriptions. So the general overarching view is beauty is the most competitive sector. I actually don't know the answer. So like I said, I've asked the question without knowing the answer. I think they're all competitive. I never see a brand where I'm like, oh, you're in the clear, you don't have any competition. I think they're all very, very competitive sectors. So on stage with me, I have Richard Sager, Managing Director of Nio Cocktails. Who's been targeted by Nio's cocktails through the Post ad? Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are everywhere. Tracy Woodwards, who's a non-executive director, CEO of Modern Botany and board advisor, general, she says dog's body, I say general, extremely well-known person in beauty, and Laura, who is the founder of Evolve Beauty. So Richard, let's start with you, cocktails through the Post. So, cocktails at home, Nio Cocktails sells hundreds of thousands of cocktails per year through the Post, Italy, UK, Germany. Tell us about the journey so far and disrupting that category, which I understand that people like Bacardi have been trying to disrupt for years.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Founded in 2017 in Italy. The premise was really simple. Luca, who's our founder, got married, had children, loves his cocktails, couldn't go out to bars and restaurants very much, and when he was inviting people around to his home, didn't have time to make the cocktails before people left the kitchen where he was at and went into the living room. So he was literally left holding the bottle, holding the shaker, and not being a great host. So he said there's got to be a better way of having fabulous cocktails at home. So we founded Nio Cocktails, which stands for Needs Ice Only. You take one of our cocktails, you shake it, you open it, you pour it over ice. Now, Luca doesn't make the cocktails. We have Patrick Pistolesi to do that. Patrick is the founder of Drink Kong. It's the best bar in Italy, and last year was voted the 19th best bar in the world. So that's what we hold our handle to. Bar quality cocktails in the comfort of your home. And it is disruptive because I worked at Bacardi 15 years ago. I'm showing my age now. And at the time, they were trying to figure out a way to have more people buy spirits to take home with them, and they were trying to access this through allowing people to make cocktails at home. And it's tricky. You need lots of different spirits for lots of different cocktails, fresh ingredients, and then at least some knowledge of how to make them. It's time-consuming, it's messy, and they don't taste great at the end of the day. So we've packaged a cocktail, it gets sent through the letterbox, it gets pushed through the letterbox, and you literally can have a cocktail in half a minute.
So that packaging has been one of the ways in which you guys have really stood out against the competition. You said that Luca, as a child of the 80s or 90s?
Child of the 80s, music of the 80s, CDs. So now there's a fabulous secondary market for us to buy CD cases to showcase our cocktails because we've moved beyond D2C into the retail and B2B world. So hopefully you'll start seeing us in some of the independent spirits and wine stores. But yeah, we wanted to do something different, not just to create iconic packaging that people notice, they're curious about, it's tactile, they ask questions, they purchase, but it uses 20% of the energy of glass, doesn't require secondary packaging to transport. And again, when we think about our D2C origins, it fits through the letterbox, so it's tremendously convenient.
And how do you think you've managed to stand out? Because there is a lot of competition in people trying to do
I'm really
cocktails.
disappointed that premium ready-to-drink cocktails didn't appear. I appreciate people might think it's niche, but it's growing quickly. And the fact of the matter is, during COVID, where we were fortunate enough to be able to continue to operate, a lot of people entered this space. A lot of bar people entered this space, and kudos to them for pivoting their business to make a livelihood, and I've got unbelievable respect for them. but it does mean that there's a lot more competition. I think fundamentally, when I think about Nio, I think about choice, quality, and convenience. When you go into a bar, you don't want to be limited to 1 or 2 cocktails. You also don't want to buy a litre of a single cocktail type to have at home, because then you're stuck with that drink for the evening, for the week, and your guests can't choose a different cocktail. We have 25 different cocktails on our menu. You can pick and choose any combination of those, and I'm a maths geek. Excel is my canvas. That's over 120,000 different combinations, which we fulfill for next day delivery. Quality is second to none. We really do have one of the best bartenders using the best ingredients. We're the most highly rated in the UK, and we do blind taste tests. And when it comes to convenience, as I say, you order online, get sent through your letterbox, or you buy in a shop, and you simply shake, tear, pour over ice, and you have a bar quality cocktail ready to go.
And Rich, my last question for you, we talked about how one of the most challenging moments for you guys was the huge growth you had during COVID. But you went on to say something about how you measure success, which is not the basis of orders, but feedback. So tell us more about that approach, customer satisfaction and ratings.
I couldn't agree more with what the speaker said just before us. Again, I say this in the context of a global health pandemic. We were very fortunate to continue to operate and to grow very, very quickly off the back of a really solid proposition. But at the end of the day, there are problems in supply chains, there are problems in logistics that we can't manage. Couriers are obviously a prime example of this, and they experienced tremendous growth as well during lockdown. My first hires were in customer services to support, to identify problems before the consumer did, and if we missed it, to resolve them when we were contacted. It's about protecting the brand. Quality isn't just about the quality of the product, it's about the quality of the overall experience, from the copy and the photography, from the UX on the website, from the receipt of the product. Those are all moments of truth, as well as the tasting of the cocktail. So we sought to manage all of those to deliver a fabulous experience, just like you would have in a bar.
Brilliant, thanks Rich.
Thank you.
Laura, coming on to you, and tell us about your brand, Evolve Beauty. You're 100% direct-to-consumer brand.
So Evolve is a natural and sustainable range. We make it by hand in our own studio, which is just north of London in Hertfordshire. We use natural ingredients and organic ingredients, and we blend them into butters and oils and creams. We also make shampoos and body washes, so a big range of different products for hair, body and skin. I started the business in 2009 and I bootstrapped it. I haven't taken investment yet. I've grown the business to roughly around 5 million now, and we have about 40 people in the team, 20 of which are our artisans who make the products. We sell the products direct to consumer, but also wholesale, and we sell across Europe as well as in the UK.
So Laura, when we spoke, you talked a lot about how you had to try and get product market fit. And I said to you, well, how did you know when you finally got it? So tell us a bit about that journey you went on.
Yes, so about 7 years ago, we decided to open this studio where we're making the products ourselves. And before that point, we were like many other small brands in the beauty industry. We were working with contract manufacturers, which was great because they did all of the sort of the tricky formulation work. But the frustration was we had to make a lot of products in each of the runs. And also we were always last in the queue because we were small. So we were always waiting. Things would go out of stock. We were not nimble. We were not agile. And what we did was we had loads of ideas, and when we brought the product manufacturing in-house, we could suddenly launch 20 things rather than just make a few things and do loads of experiments. So a lot of the ideas that come from the digital industry around rapid testing and prototyping and trying to create a minimum viable product and get it to market, we were doing, but we were doing it with a physical product. So we were making a couple of hundred of things and seeing what worked. And we have our own label machine, or we did at the time. Now we don't do it anymore, we have them printed. But at the time we were printing everything in our own studio so we could be super, super flexible. And I think that getting product market fit is about getting things to market and trying them out. So what was really amazing at that time was we could use, all of our ideas, even the most innovative ones, which were a bit risky to produce in really large quantities, could be produced in small quantities. We could try them, and a lot of them actually ended up being some of our most successful products. So I think that getting product market fit is about trying things, and it's also just about understanding what your customers want. So we spend a lot lot of time talking to customers, understanding their skin needs, doing ethnography, and we still don't always get it right. I think packaging is often a tricky area because it's a bit like a hit record. You either get it right or you don't, and you don't always know until you try it. But eventually we did manage to find it with Evolve, and once we did that, we really just couldn't keep up with demand, and we've grown pretty much ever since. Every year since then, we sort of doubled or tripled the size of the business to get where we are now.
You're quite different to a lot of the brands and founders in the room in that you haven't raised investment. You touched on that before. But despite you having a finance background yourself and you studied at Harvard Business Academy, so why have you not raised investment, and what do you think that would have led you to do if you had?
Yeah, I started as a management consultant, and so I had a business background. I went to Harvard Business School. So when I got into beauty, I'd already worked in business. And I came in really because I wanted to make a difference and create a purpose-driven business. And wanting to do something purpose-driven, I was looking to see how I could be aligned with investors. I think it's very different now. I think there's lots of investors now who are really interested in sustainable businesses. But sort of going back 15 years or so, it wasn't quite like that. And I wanted to try and get the product market fit and get myself a bit further along the curve as well before I took investment, so that I would stay aligned with my investors when I did decide to take investment. And I've got to the point now where at the moment I don't really need to have investment, but that doesn't mean that I won't have it in the future, because it depends what happens with the business, how fast we grow and what we decide to do. So it's not to say that I don't think you should have it. I don't think it's a good idea to have it very early, especially if you're working on a business where you don't have product market fit or you're still trying to get the business model working, because I think that you need to be aligned with investors and they need to make a return for their shareholders. So sometimes that it would lead you to grow the business when you otherwise wouldn't grow it so quickly. And also sometimes I think it makes you make big mistakes when you can actually make small ones and try things out and be very scrappy. We were very scrappy, and to some extent we still are. So the other day we were making a bath salt, for example, and we thought, well, this is a one-shot product. We're making it for Christmas. We could invest in a great big mixer, could cost upwards of £10,000 to mix this bath salt. But actually it's for one product. We might never do another bath salt. We'll see how it goes. So we ended up buying a cement mixer. It is a new cement mixer. And if we ever do sell it secondhand, it will make the nicest cement you'll ever smell.
Brilliant, thanks, Laura. So Tracy, you've had a long career in beauty and worked with lots of different brands. When it comes to competition, and you've evolved from corporates like Aromatherapy Associates through to the types of small brands that you're supporting now, startup brands. When it comes to competition and standing out and being competitive, what's your advice for brands?
I think that I would probably go back, in giving my advice, I would go back to the beginning when I was a Clinique consultant in Debenhams of Croydon, age 19. And the department store shop floor was very, very competitive. In those days when you worked for the Estée Lauder Corporation, there was an A3 spreadsheet that you had to fill in. And on that spreadsheet, you had to show the hours that you worked, you had to show the products that you sold, you had to show the average unit sale, you had to talk about how many customers you'd reached out to, whether that be writing or telephoning them. Does anyone remember those days?
Phone calls?
Yeah, phone calls. Or postcards, or actually physically invited in, how many makeup sessions you did a day on counter. So my goal, being in Debenhams of Croydon, was to meet as many people as I possibly could and tell them what a great, fabulous Clinique consultant I was. And so at 19, I was one of the youngest Clinique consultants in the country. I was probably in one of the naffest stores in the country also, but what I decided to do was to get to know my customer and to traffic stop all day long. So if I wasn't cleaning the testers, humping the stock up from the stock room or counting the stock, as you did in those days, I was actually outside leafleting and grabbing as many people as possible to get them to sit on my chair, to have a skincare consultation or to have a makeup session with me. I was so determined to have great average unit sales in makeup consultations of at least 5 that that once I actually continued to perform a full facial makeup on a lady that was actually having an epileptic fit, because I just was trying to hold her still, which was pretty crazy. I kind of sussed it pretty quickly that I needed to be more attentive to people's needs. But what I can tell you is that I knew everything about my customer. I knew when she was going to weddings, I knew when she had christenings, I knew whether or not her husband was having an affair because I was her best friend, so she would come in and tell me everything. I looked at hairdressers and thought, these people know everything about their customers and they keep them loyal, so how am I going to make that happen? And it was about getting to know my customer. And so I had an average unit sale of 3.5 in the UK, so which was one of the best. But I knew everything about them. And that is how you build a brand. You find your tribe. You make sure that you connect with them emotionally, physically if possible. You know, the power of touch is a wonderful thing. So I'm not saying that you should encourage every customer to touch themselves, but they need to engage with themselves personally. They need to connect. So whether it be making a cocktail or knowing that a brand has blended their products in a cement mixer, because that's a great story. It's this emotional connection that we're all looking for, and actually we need it more than ever before. So I always use my time working for the Estee Lauder Corporation as how did I understand how to build brands? Because at that time, I was building my own brand. If I achieved my sales goal for everything over that, I got 2%. You know, when I went to orders of Bromley as the head of beauty department manager, everything over, every percentage over gross profit, I got an extra 1% bonus. Orders of Bromley was the most profitable beauty department in the whole of the Orders group, because I figured that if I started splitting things down, selling gift with purchases, doing customer events, that I would build my business, I would build the relationships, I would keep the consumer loyal to me. All of those things that I was doing, you know, in my 20s, which is nearly 40 years ago, no, 36 years ago, is what we do today. We just have to find different ways to do it. And because the market is so competitive, especially beauty, as we've seen here, you have to really understand your customer. You have to emotionally connect. You have to really, really entice them into your brand. And that's how you build a business.
Thanks, Tracy. I think one of the things we often talk about, and Tracy's a good friend of mine and I've known her for a few years now, is Tracy always says, what you're doing online is exactly the same as what I did in these department stores. And I think there's a lot of truth in that.
But if you can look at it that way, it makes it easier to understand.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Find your brand purpose. It's so important who your tribe is going to be. Know that before you even go into business, because if you don't, then you lose half of a fighting chance.
Yeah, amazing. Brilliant. Thanks to all three of you. So you're all going to be around for lunch in the afternoon. So if anyone has any questions, these guys will be here to talk and share their knowledge and wisdom with you. So thank you, Richard, Laura, and Tracy. Thanks a lot.
Nice to meet you.